what does it mean when the moon is full, but in the sign of her detriment in the chart? Well, that is what we're going to talk about this week when we dive into this full moon in Capricorn, which is the sign of the moon's detriment, simply because it is opposite of her domicile, the sign that she rules, which is Cancer, where everybody else is. And moon is kind of missing out on the party this week. So let me go ahead and I'll show you what this looks like on the chart, and we will pull it apart together to make it make sense. All right, so this is the chart for the full moon happening on June 21st. In my local time, it's around 9:07 p.m. So you want to adjust that for your local time wherever you are. If you are looking on a chart to find out when this is, you simply look for when the moon and the sun are exactly opposite each other at 1 degree and 7 minutes. In Cancer for the sun and Capricorn for the moon. Now, we already are noticing some significations here, or some additions to the energy of this. It's not simply just a full moon in Capricorn, which is the moon opposite the sun. We actually also have Venus quite nearby, which is lovely. Venus is a benefic, so we really appreciate that. Venus is nearby. Also present in Cancer is Mercury, not too far away either. And then we see that the ruler of this lunation of Capricorn, which would be Saturn, is in Pisces. And so Saturn can witness the moon and offer a conversation here as well. It is by a sextile aspect, so skipping one sign and creating what would be sort of a hexagon if you put it across the whole chart. So Saturn is offering some support to the moon. And we also have Mars trine the moon. So the moon is applying towards Mars, who is at the same time, as we can see, having a sextile aspect with Mercury at the same time. So there's a lot of conversation between the planets going on here. In fact, the only one who's not in the conversation directly with all of them is Jupiter, who is really only talking to, it looks like, Saturn at this point, because they are applying to their square, which is something we will dive into much deeper when it arrives later. I believe in August, actually, is when they get together and actually have that perfect square between each other, which is a bigger cycle that we'll talk about. So looking at the moon in Capricorn, she is not in her favorite place. Capricorn is the opposite of where she would prefer or feels most at home, of where she feels the most welcome. And everybody else is over here. So one of the delineations I have of this, of course, is the moon being in Capricorn is opposite of Cancer. Capricorn is a cardinal sign, is an air sign, just like Cancer is a cardinal sign, but a water sign. That water sign has more emotion to it and really wants to feel involved, wants to feel needed, wants to feel loved. And Capricorn is over here wanting to make some changes, wanting to find maybe some different ways of setting themselves up for success. And so what we find here is the moon, kind of, you can see it on the chart, is away from the place where she feels the most included. Some of us may be feeling that as well. The moon is a very personal planet. And so we tend to feel the lunar cycle the most personally. And so for these few days while the moon is in Capricorn, over a 2.5 to 3 day period, you might notice that you're feeling perhaps some rejection sensitivity, perhaps some fear of missing out. You might be comparing yourself to other people or worrying over not being included or not being wanted in certain situations. My first piece of advice for this is to wait. Journal about it, analyze how you're feeling, express how you're feeling. And if you need to talk to someone about it, feel free and do that. Just make sure that you're giving yourself and others the benefit of the doubt that this is a time where we might be feeling like we're in a bit of a funk. So it's the moon in Capricorn, but someone else may not, and they may be trying to find another meaning for their emotions, which may lead to conflict and tension, as we can actually describe the opposition aspect. So give it a couple days, and let's see how many days we should give it. The moon comes out sometime during the night of the 23rd. So by the time you wake up on the 24th, you might feel a little bit better, and you might have a lot more clarity and a lot more top-down perspective of, oh, that makes so much more sense in hindsight. I see the situation now. I also see where I fit in, and I'm feeling a lot better. And especially by the time the moon gets over into Pisces and trines all of these aspects in Cancer, we may be feeling a lot better. So by the 26th, you might be feeling a lot better from that time on the 21st when we had that full moon. So that's something to think about. And The affirmation that I have for this full moon is, of course, I am filling the space that is made just for me, because I truly believe that when we express ourselves to our fullest, to who we are, to figuring out who that is and allowing ourselves to be that, we find the community that is meant for us, and it welcomes us and it sees us and it doesn't ask us to put on a show or to put on a mask or anything like that. You are welcomed and loved unconditionally. So that is my favorite thing to think about as we go through this situation of the full moon, which of course is just the day after the ingress of the sun into Cancer, beginning summer. So now we are in summer, and we can talk about some of the magic that goes along with the celebration of summer. So many belief systems and practices in folk magic and all across the world have this celebration of the turning of the seasons, have festivals that honor the seasons changing, especially when we get to the sun's longest period of light during the day, which is the Cancer solstice, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. So what we're experiencing in the Northern Hemisphere is the oncoming of summer. In the Southern Hemisphere, people are experiencing the oncoming of winter and the shortest day. It is this pivot point between the sun's ultimate power being as high in the sky as the sun gets, or the lowest amount, or the minimal amount of daylight that the sun gets. I want to focus a little bit more right now for where I am located and where many of you may be located as well in the Northern Hemisphere, talking about ways that we can honor this changing of the seasons into summer. So on the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom Patreon, I've shared a little summer cordial that people can make and use in their practices and go along with certain astrological timing, but everyone can celebrate summer in ways that feel aligned to them. Bonfires are a common way of celebrating summer festivals, such as Litha or St. John's Day or other common summer festivals that are going on right now. So you have your option of bonfires, you have your option of spending time in water, you have your option of my favorite, which is waking up before sunrise and then trying to go to sleep after sunset. So you've experienced all of those hours along with the sun. That is a bit of a challenge for some of us, one way or another, but it is something that I intend on doing because I think it's beautiful. This is also a time where we're honoring the goddess Juno. If you want to focus on Juno, who is the Roman goddess that is comparable in certain ways to Hera in the Greek pantheon, checking into those things as well. How do you want to dress your altar with these kind of different festivals in mind, whichever one aligns the most for you? Or, if you want to do something that's a little bit more designed by yourself, having a bonfire with friends, lighting a simple candle to honor the heat and the burning of the sun that we have at this time. All of these are totally viable. You can't really get it wrong. Just do what feels like summer to you. But here are some recommendations, and I hope that they've been helpful. I hope you have a beautiful summer, and I will see you next week for our next overview of the astrology and the folk magic.